Hello, this is RICKY, the Android Guy. Hey guys, so today I'm bringing you a segment called Tech Stock Analysis. And the reason I'm doing this is because I was watching a whole bunch of stock shows and they were surprised that Apple's stock was going down. They couldn't figure it out. They were like, oh my god, what's going on? How can the stock be going down? They're showing this, they're showing that. You guys know nothing about technology. And I'm going to flat out say that right now. CNN, CNBC, all of you guys, all Fox News, all of them. None of you guys understand technology, and that's why you were surprised by this. Because any person that knows technology would have told you that Apple was going down. Plain and simple. And here's why. So we're going to go first talk about Apple, and then we're going to talk about Samsung, and go over the differences and why Apple will continue to fall and why Samsung is going to continue to go up. So let's start off. If you missed my previous video on why Apple's failing and why they continue to fail, there's three key points that why Apple stock and the company is falling. And they all stem from basically this new direction that after Steve Jobs, what would happen. And so here we go. Marketing. Marketing has gone downhill for Apple since Steve Jobs passed away. Their new marketing is horrible, and it doesn't show any benefit on why you should get an iPhone. It's very poorly done. I mean, literally, I don't know if like grad students are doing their marketing or what, but it's just horribly done. Horribly done. Their marketing is awful, and marketing is what made Apple the company that it is today, or should I say the company that it was a year and a half ago. And the reason is because Apple was going bankrupt before Steve Jobs took it over and did a lot of things to make marketing its core. You had the iPod commercials, you had the Mac, I'm a Mac, I'm a PC. You had all these great marketing campaigns that put it up to above everyone else in the marketing world. They had the best marketing going for at least 5 to 10 years. Plain and simple. That is no longer in existence. Their marketing sucks. It's horrible. They haven't had a good ad for at least over a year. Plain and simple. So that's one. Two, they had prestige. Apple was a high-end company. They were high-end quality, high-end parts, and all that and all that kind of stuff. And they tried to say that on their, reflection on their stocks. Oh, we still make the best products and all that. No, you don't. Actually, Apple never really has. But what they did do was corner certain markets. So what they did was they cornered the music industry and said, oh, here, use this great tool called Pro Tools and everything like that and all that kind of stuff, and make you believe it only works for Mac, but it actually works for PC as well. Oh, we got this great, company, like, we want Adobe to work for us. Actually, just forget them, we'll just make Final Cut and make it ourselves. And so now you have to, if you're being serious about video editing or music editing, you have to own a Mac. That's just the standard in the industry. You are not taken seriously unless you own them. Not only that, but they're high-end products. They, to buy a Mac computer, you have to spend at least $1,300, and then they came out with MacBook Air, and that was $1,000. So no matter what, all of their products cost above $1,000 for a long time. Now the way they changed this was the iPad, and that was the perfect blend. See, the thing is that Mac computers will never be dominant. And well, actually, let me just go right into the next one. So they had prestige. They lost that when they went to prepaid. Plain and simple. When they went to prepaid phones, they lost that prestige. It is seen as just another phone, nothing special. Plain and simple. And now the last part, which is with what the whole idea behind Mac computers, iPads, and every other device is that Apple makes money through profit margin, which they are cannibalizing themselves, and that's why they aren't doing it correctly anymore. So the way that Mac made more money compared to all PC makers was because a PC maker might only make about $100 off of their laptop. So that's why all these laptops you see sell for 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, they make maybe $100 to $300 at most on these devices. However, a Mac that sells for, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000, they don't cost that much to make. they're actually barely more expensive than the PC counterparts. But here's the thing. They make you believe that, oh, aluminum is such a great quality and all these things, and when actually like that scratches more, never mind the materials. But let's just say for a fact that they're making like 1,000 for their least expensive devices, like 1,000 a Mac computer that costs about 1,500. They're making about anywhere from 600 to probably 1,000 off each one of those. So they make a lot more money off of each computer sold. So that's how Apple made their money. High profit margin. They didn't care if they didn't sell as many. PC outsells Mac entirely. But the whole point was that they did a higher profit margin. They continue this with the iPhone. Again, they don't care if they don't sell as many because they're making more money off of everyone else. Then we had the iPad. Now this took a lot of Apple's share, but it was the perfect medium between high profit margin and so you had a high profit margin. Again, you didn't care if you took the margin. Now the only thing that never followed this was iPods, and they still really do follow this because an iPod is very inexpensive to make, but they still get profit margin. However, they do not get as much profit margin. So in comes the iPad Mini. Apple's biggest mistake of the year. And the reason why I say it's the biggest mistake is because it cannibalized the iPad market and created their profit margin to end up at what it was. So here's the thing. iPads sell at make at least $300 profit and up per one sold. However, iPad minis make closer to about $130 profit per iPad mini sold, which means to make the same amount of profit, Apple needs to sell twice, actually more than twice, iPad minis as they would iPads. So if they were expected to sell, say, so what ended up selling was 22.9 million iPads, right? And again, Apple's very smart, and they don't say how many iPad minis were sold. They also don't say how many iPhone 4s, 4S, and 5s were sold. They don't do that because they're very smart, and they know that'll only make their stock go lower. However, let's say this. So say there was 22.9 million iPads sold, and say, 20, let's say 10, okay? Say 10 of them were iPad minis. Now, even if they had sold 17.9 million iPads, and they were all regular iPads, they actually would have made more money. They would have had more profit. But they released the iPad mini because they're idiots. And the reason why I say that is because if you know technology, Apple's not supposed to do that. Apple does not supposed to care about losing the tablet market share. They're destined to do that. Android will take over the tablet market share in 2013. Apple can't do anything about it, plain and simple. But they're trying to. They're trying to keep the tablet market share. And that is idiotic. They cannot do it. Not only can they not do it, they're cannibalizing their own profit margin while trying to do it. That product selling at that price, the iPad mini selling at that price, is just not good for business. And they're continuing to do it. But not only that, what's going to happen at this first quarter? Well, this first quarter most likely will end in March with Apple releasing an iPad 5 and an iPad mini 2. The problem with that is that an iPad mini 5 is way too early. Apple fans were already really upset that the iPad 4 came out in the same year as the iPad 3. So now you're going to have an iPad 5 come out, and it's going to look kind of like the iPad, and kind of look basically like the iPad mini. And that's a complete redesign of it. It's a new look, different style, and everything like that. The iPad mini is finally going to have a good screen, because if you know technology, the iPad mini has the worst screen out of every tablet on the market. 7-inch tablet, that is. And not only that, but it's really bad when people like the Nook, the Kindle, the Nexus, and the Samsung tablet all have a better resolution than you and better pixels per inch. So that is really harmful to Apple. So here's what we're going through. We're going through a process where Apple is finally being shown for the company that they are. They're not necessarily the best. They never actually have been, but they had great marketing to manipulate people and to, not necessarily to manipulate. Marketing and advertising, persuades people. And they persuaded people to think that they were the top one. When I shouted, they never really have been. There's always products that have been better than Apple, but they're really good at marketing products that seem innovative. They're just really, what the best thing has been said around the internet is they're recipe makers. They take a little bit of this, they take a little bit of that's already existing, and they make their own. They're not really innovative per se, but they're good recipe makers. So here's the thing. They don't have anything good coming out in this first quarter. So the stock will continue to fall. My prediction was that the stock will go below 400 before the end of February. I'm almost guaranteeing that, just because they are still going down, and they don't have anything coming out to change this. And when something does come out, it's only going to harm them further. And the reason why they have to come out with something is to change everyone's opinion of them. However, that's not going to help them. Now, the iPhone 6 will come out towards the end of the year, right? It's not gonna come out in June or earlier as people are predicting, just because Apple can't mass produce like that. They can't just change all their components like that and do that. Apple does not own production. People don't realize that. The Apple doesn't make anything they produce when it comes to iOS devices. It's all Samsung, Sony, Sharp, LG, Foxconn. Those are the companies that are making these parts, not Apple themselves. So Apple doesn't have the manpower to do that. Apple doesn't have the manpower to create a new product like that. So here's the thing. Apple won't release a new phone until later on. Meanwhile, companies like Samsung, companies like Google will release other products before then. They will take more wind out of Apple. Plain and simple. Their stock will go down further. Now, the only trump card. So let me finish the iPhone first, and then we go to Apple's trump card. So Apple will only release an iPhone 6. I don't believe they'll release a cheaper one, because if they do, they'll only further dig themselves in the hole that they're in. And what I mean by that is if Apple has a good structure right now, the 5, the 4S, and the 4. 4S and 4 use older, cheaper components, so they're cheaper to make. If Apple were to make a new product, even if it has cheaper parts, they're not going to be as cheap as these parts that have been continually manufactured for over a year and 2 years. They are not. So you have, again, something that cuts into your profit margin, that brings down your profit margin. This is the future of Apple. It's going to keep getting worse. The only trump card they have is Apple TV. Will there be an Apple TV? Well, here's the thing. If there is an Apple TV, who do you think will make it? Everything that Apple would come out with is something that Samsung already has. They're going to come out with a gesture, which controls which Samsung already has on their TVs. They're going to come out with apps on their TVs, which Samsung already has on their TVs. They're going to come out with thin LEDs on a camera, which Samsung already has. If anyone is destined to make Apple's TVs, Samsung will. Which brings me to the next company, Samsung. Samsung is the opposite of Apple right now, because they're doing things very intelligently. They're actually on the rise, while Apple's on the decline. Their stock continues to grow up, their revenue, their profit, everything continues to grow up. And it's because not only do they make money from their own devices, they make money from Apple devices. Their processing chips are all made by Samsung. Every iOS processor from the original A series to A6X to A5X is all made by Samsung. It's not some secret, although Apple's PR is trying to keep it a secret. It's there. And here's the thing. If Samsung knows what Apple will have later, then how could Apple ever beat Samsung? They can't. Not only that, but Samsung is actually being innovative. And they have the production power to come out with multiple devices every couple of months. They're not flooding the market, but they're doing a good job of leveling it. So they come out it's been announced that the Note 8 will come out around will be announced next month. We don't know when the S4 will come out, but if it comes out the same time that every other S series has come out, it should come out like May, June, July, sometime around there. So again, they beat Apple to the market before the iPhone 6 would be released. Have the whole summer to themselves, dominate the market again, which is what the S3 did. And then by the time the iPhone 6 would come out, well, the Note 3 would probably come out, wouldn't it? Because that makes a year from then. Not to mention the trump card that Samsung has is flexible screen technology that we saw at CES that just looked amazing. I mean, they had a device that basically was like a Samsung phone and it opened up into a tablet. That is insane. And it's really cool. And a lot of people would love it and a lot of people would be innovative. Not to mention that Samsung has learned that marketing is key. They've been marketing better than anyone. And really, it's really impressive, their marketing. And their marketing campaigns have gone really well. And their marketing is doing great. And they just keep going up. Now, Samsung stock is internationally traded, so not as many people know about it in the US. However, Google stock is a good reflection, and Google stock has stayed above 700. So it stayed above 700 the entire time. And see, and that's because Android has been so successful. Plus, Google's making good investments. Google keeps reinvesting their money. They're not hoarding their money like Apple is. They're actually investing in so many different things, and they're doing a really good job at it. They've made strategic investments, and each one has gone in their favor. It seems like Google can do no wrong, whereas Apple has made the wrong steps, and Samsung and Google have been making the right steps. So here's the problem that lies with Apple stock is that it really, if you know technology, if you know everything that's going to happen in the upcoming year, then you're not really betting on Apple right now. And that shows in what we've seen. It's not going good for Apple. And again, I want to clarify, of course, these are all my opinions. These are all my opinions just because I actually study technology and I really was upset because I saw these so-called stock analysts and they had no idea what technology was going on. They were like, "Oh, well, like if I go to a store and I want to buy a tablet, I can buy some cheap tablet or I can buy an iPad." Actually, iPad isn't even the best tablet on the market anymore. If you actually see these other tablets, they have a lot better features than it. Hell, Samsung can do a split screen. You can have two apps at the same time. Apple isn't anywhere close to it. Actually, their OS can't do that. These kind of things are real innovation, where Apple doesn't have that. Even their iOS 7, they're going to try to revamp it. They are still playing catch up. And that's what happened this past year. There was not one feature on an iPhone that the competitor didn't have. Not only that, the competitors, such as like the S3, because that's the prime example, outsold Apple because it had features that no one else had. You have features that no one else has on the market on the S3 and the Note 2. And Apple can't compete with that because Apple has so many different parts that they have to try to, move up. And Samsung is controlling the hardware and a little bit of the software, and Google's controlling the main software. They are destroying it in the mobile industry, and they will continue. You will continue to see Google and Samsung go up, and you'll see Apple decline. It's in the sales. It's in all the real analysis. If you actually see the figures, and if you actually see these numbers, and if you see these trends, that is what will happen. Plain and simple. So yes, this was the breakdown on these tech stocks, and this was tech stock news. And I just wanted to show you guys what is going to happen, what will continue to happen, and why. So I wanted to explain to you why, because that's really important so you see exactly what will happen over these next few months. Thank you for watching. This has been RSEKY, the Android Guy.